Hello, my name's Scott Perry. I'm a professional magician and this is a magic review.
It's a kind of magic.
Before we get into today's review, I would like to congratulate Abbas Mohammed for winning the giveaway on my last video, which was for Crazy Man's Split by Henry Harrius. So congratulations. If you want to be involved in future giveaways, make sure you hit the subscribe button. With that out of the way, I would like to start with today's review, or discussion, I would say, more than a review. So we're talking about Joe Rindfleisch's rubber bands and whether they are worth it, because in my opinion, they are quite pricey. The TLDR on this is not taking the normal format of my reviews. We're just going to have a short talk about these, and I'll tell you the pros about using these because there aren't really any cons, and also give you a couple of tips about using rubber bands in general for sizing and exercises and a few different things. So the Joe Rindfleisch rubber bands, they come in various colors. This is the rainbow pack, and you will see just there all of the colors that you get inside the rainbow pack. The rubber bands come all mixed up when you receive them, so they don't come separated like this. I've done that so that they're easily accessible. And then we also have the executive pack, which is white and black bands. Something aside from the actual rubber bands and if they're worth it, is that I like is that Joe has named each one of the colors after a well-known magician. So for example, the white bands are named after Dan White, the magician in the US. So I think that's just a really cool thing, or in the magic community, to include magicians that we all are familiar with or have heard of. For example, one of these colors is Dan Harlan's colors, who is very well known for doing and creating a lot of rubber band magic. And it's just a nice touch. Joe didn't have to do that. I think it's fun to include magicians in the community when products are being created. So that's just something kind of not about the rubber bands, but something that I like. There's a couple of things to know before we talk about the rubber bands themselves. They come in two different sizes, I believe, size 16 and size 19. We will talk about those in a moment. They also come in a variety of different colors, not just these ones that you see here. So go online to any magic shop or walk into a real life magic shop for the handful that are left and have a look at them because they might have some colors that I don't have in this video that you would like to use. Also, before we move on, I will tell you that out of all of the rubber bands in this pack, there were only two that were no good. So I don't know if you will be able to see this, but this one has a very thin, very thin part to it. So that's going to break if I were to do any magic tricks with it. And I had just a couple of straggler pieces of yellow bands. But other than that, all of the bands are in perfect condition, ready to perform with. I've not had any other kind of bands that haven't arrived in a good working order, which is good when you're buying a pack of bands, knowing that 99% of them are going to be in perfect condition. Another thing that's important to note about Joe Rindfleisch's rubber bands, unlike some rubber bands, they are non-latex. So some people are allergic to latex, and you might be one of them, but you may not know, just in case you've never been tested for allergies before, which lots of people aren't. So, you might end up the night of performing some rubber band things for some friends, and your skin might be red, and you might not be too comfortable. And that could be a reason why, because you're allergic to latex. So these won't produce any allergic reactions to anyone. Also, it's not just you. If you're getting other people to hold onto rubber bands, you need to make sure that they are also not going to have an allergic reaction as well. So that's a nice thing about these rubber bands. They're high quality, they come in lots of colors, they're named after various magicians, they're non-latex, and then the final thing is that they are coated in something called Elastiflex. Elastiflex is a material, it's a liquid that coats these rubber bands is almost like a seal around the rubber. So the Elastiflex makes the rubber bands look slightly shinier, and I'll show you in a moment, but it makes it slightly shinier than a regular band. It increases its lifetime, so you can stretch it more. It's stronger, it's more resilient, it's more resistant to breaking, and they just generally last longer and look nicer to perform with. They also feel just slightly slipperier than a regular rubber band as well. So for these reasons, and we'll go on to more in a second, but for these reasons, I do think that the Joe Rindfleisch bands are well worth the money. They're anywhere from £15, $15, up to like £25, $25 for a pack. It depends which pack you buy. So that's the general pricing that you're looking at. As you can see, you do get a lot of bands for your money. And the reason why I think that this is a no-brainer, realistically, for any magician performing with rubber bands, is because a pack of this amount of rubber bands in general is going to cost you roughly the same amount of money, and they're not going to work as well for magic tricks as the Joe Rindfleisch bands. So I do think they're well worth the money. But let me show you a few of these bands. Okay, here we have the white, I believe the Dan White band, and the black band. These are size 19 rubber bands. And I will go on to why the size is very important in a few moments. I'm just going to show you a few other colors. We have the size 16 yellow one. We have a size 16 purple band, size 16 pink, which is named after Ran Pink, I think, size 16 orange, and size 16 green. So as you can see, they are very vibrant colors. Aside from magic tricks in general, if you were to go out and buy some rubber bands from a craft store, from a hobby store, I don't know if it would be easy to find rubber bands of this kind of vibrancy. So I've never been rubber band shopping before, but I can't say that I've often seen rubber bands of this spectrum of color. So it does cover a wide variety. And then as you can see, I have a $50 here. So this is for size comparison. You see that a size 16 band is just a little bit larger than a $50. And a size 19 band is considerably larger. And I'm going to explain the reason why this is very important when you're making your purchase. If you have really large hands, you are going to, and I mean big hands, you're going to want to go for the size 19. And the reason is it will be easier for you to perform certain magic tricks. If you have kind of normal sized hands or smaller hands like myself, you're going to want to go for the size 16. And I'll tell you why. A lot of the effects you perform, if you have kind of small or regular sized hands, will be very difficult with the size 19 rubber bands. I recently did a review of Crazy Man's Split and Crazy Sam's handcuffs. Both of those effects are very difficult for me to do with size 19 bands because my hands are too small for this kind of stretch. So when I have them, they don't, between the fingers, they don't really stretch too much because this is not far off of their natural size. Yet when I do it with a size 16 band, because they are much smaller, I have much more tension on the bands. There are also other effects. I don't remember the name of it, but there's an effect where you kind of shoot a rubber band and it flies away and then it rolls back to you as well. So for certain magic tricks, you're going to need the tension of the smaller rubber bands. But again, this depends on the size of your hands. If you have big hands, or if you need slightly larger rubber bands, go for size 19. But for normal sized hands, if you're performing things like Crazy Man's handcuffs, Crazy Sam's handcuffs, Crazy Man's Split, all kinds of very normal, even the effect where you have two rubber bands like this and something like a piece of paper or a banknote that's folded around one rises up, the size 16 might be too small for that, I think, realistically, just because of the stretch on them. So for that effect, you're going to want, even with smaller hands, you're going to want the size 19 bands because it gives you much more freedom of movement. So yes, it's just something that you need to be aware of. I've given you a few examples of routines that the size 16 are better for. I've given you a few examples of what the size 19 are better for. And hopefully that helps you make the right decision in which pack you should buy for what kind of routine. But if you are wondering, then I would suggest put a comment below and I will get back to you as soon as I have time to let you know what I would recommend for the effect that you're trying to perform with it. There is one last thing that I have to leave you with, and that is an exercise. So in a recent review that I did of Crazy Man Split, Henry speaks in the tutorial instructions about how your hands and your fingers might become sore from practicing, which is true. If you do not do a lot of rubber band magic and then you start practicing, you will notice that you get soreness in your muscles and tendons and everything. So one thing that I recommend to strengthen your hands and your fingers for rubber band magic is take 2 smaller rubber bands and stretch them out like this as an exercise. So this will get your hands and your fingers used to the tension. So this is the same as exercising at a gym for your legs or for any other body part that you're using. And this is just quite a simple exercise to build up some strength in your fingers so that you're not cramping as much when you're performing or after you've performed rubber band magic. I think that's about everything that I have to say about the Joe Rindfleisch bands. They are really good, that you get a lot. The variety is fantastic, the quality is fantastic. So yes, if you are looking at Joe Rindfleisch rubber bands and you're wondering, are they worth the money? Yes, they are. Go out and purchase the ones that you would like to. Bear in mind the advice I've given you on size 19 or size 16, and I hope you have a lot of fun with these rubber bands in whatever effect you are looking to perform. That's today's review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you found it useful. As ever, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next review.